Hilchas Nachalos Perek Revi. Now we're going to learn here Behemshech in Perek and Halacha Zayin that the way we establish that a person is royal Yerusha is through Chazaka. Now, so Edom are going to come and say that this person is Muhzik to be his son, this person is Muhzik to be his brother, a Yerush, which is with a person, a relative, which is royal Yershe. So based on that, Chazaka, he's Yarshins. Now, if the person is not Muhzik, so obviously he doesn't Yarshin. So now, in the beginning of the period, the Rambam says that a person is Naman to say about a certain person, even though he wasn't Muhzik, that he's a Yerush, he's Naman to say that this person is my Yerush. And Bepashtus, the din is based on Migui. Since he has a Migui, he could give him the Nechasim. So Mele, he has a Namanus to say also that he's a Yerush. Perek Revi. Ha'omer zeh b'ni, zeh ochi, zeh achi ovi, shara Yerush. He says about a person that this person is my relative. Is afal pi shohede ba'anoshim she'ena muzakum she'en kreva. We didn't really have a chazaka that these people are craven. Nevertheless, harei ze naman vi yiroshenu. Ben sha'amek shu bari, ben sha'amek shu shechimira. And nachmar afilu nishtatik, v'kosev v'ksav yodi shezeh yerish. So first, Beit Knesset, Gederah Beit Knesset to establish that this person, even though he was nishtatik, is still a bardas. And once we establish he's a bardas, we check, we ask him questions, and we see that he's a bardas, so then we accept what he wrote and saying that this person is the karev. So the din is nachamol that even though a person, we don't have a chazaka, it's not muzak that he's a karev, but nevertheless, since he's saying about him that he's a karev, so therefore he's naman. And the reason why he's naman is because he has a migo. He could have been given him the nechasim, be makna the nechasim, that he should become his right before he dies. Now, this din, the Achreinim say, is only if there's no chazaka that he's a karev, he's believed to say that he's a karev. Mashenka, if there's a chazaka that he's not a karev, he's a muzik that he's not a karev. So then, since he's a muzik that he's not a karev, so the migui won't help. A migui would help even though there's no muzik that he's a karev. But if it's a muzik that he's not a karev, so against that chazaka, alimta, so even a migui wouldn't help, and therefore he wouldn't taka binaman against people that are muzik that not craven. Only believed about people that are not muzik that they are craven. And Rambam doesn't say it so clearly, but that's the diuk in Lashon Rambam. Halacha beis hayinu muzakim b'zeh shu achiv a ben deidei. There was a chazak about a person that he was a relative. Va'amar eini achi ve'eini ben deidi. So then is eini naman. So he's not naman because lepel ay lechuri has a chazaka. So again, so the beer is because this is a chazaka against. He has a migui. The answer is he has a migui. He could be maknet to somebody else. He doesn't want him to be koinet, so he could be maknet to somebody else. And that's called maybe a migui. But on the other hand, it's a migui, again a chazaka, because he was muzik shehu achiv. So since he was muzik shehu achiv, so even though he has a migui to take away the Yerusha from him, nevertheless he's not believed. Avol, that's benegeh regular craven. Avol benegeh the din of his son, avol nemanu al misha huzik shu bnei, leimer eine bni v'le Yerushan. There's a special din that a person is naman to say about his son that he's eine bni, and v'le Yerushan. They'll say so a person that's muzik that he's his son, and al kaina da eine bni v'le Yerushan. V'yiro li shafilo hoyel ben bonim. Is aval pisha in naman olav leimer eine bni lini yichus. Bechlal a person is naman to say about someone that's muzik to be his son that eine bni, and therefore that person has a din of a mamzer. If he says eine bni, so which means that even though he was born from his mother, which was married to this person that's tiny eine bni, so it means that he has a father. So it comes that he's a mamzer, and that din only applies if he doesn't have any children. Because Lepel, Lefizeh, he's only postling this child, he's not postling his children. Masha'enkin, if through his agoda, he's also saying that he's a mamzer, Mamel comes out his children are mamzerim, so then he has no nemonis. So a person normally has a nemonis to say on a person that ain't a bni. That's only if he only has a son, and that son doesn't have any other children. If he has other children, he's not nemon. But that's legabi yichus. Masha'enkin, as far as Yerusha is concerned, the Rambam is saying a Yeroli, there's a din that a person's allowed to say about someone that's muzik shubni, that he's not bni legabi Yerusha, and lepeil, even if that child has children, but nevertheless legabi Yerusha he has an amonis to say in the bni, and mamela he doesn't yarshim. That's what he's saying. V'yiro li shafilo hoyel ben bonim is afal pisha in namanol of leimer in the bni lini yichus, and therefore the child, and the grandchildren won't be considered mamzerim. And ve'em machzik nesim mamzer al piv. Nevertheless, namanu lini Yerusha, and therefore v'le Yerusha. You see, you split what he's saying. On one hand, he's saying Eini B'ni. he's Naman Linyan Yerusha that it's Eini B'ni, but he's not believed Linyan Mamzer because he has children as well. Now the Maggid Mishnah says that Lefizah will come out Lamashal. That's if the son is alive and he says Eini B'ni, so the son doesn't yashin him. Kimuvan, if the son doesn't yashin him, the Einiklach don't yashin. Mashenkin, what happens if the son is no longer alive and the shaila is only B'neged the Einiklach? If the Einiklach should yashin their zayda, and lepel, so now he's coming along and saying that their father wasn't B'ni, so the Maggid Mishnah is saying that he's not believed. Because when he says Eini B'ni about his son, he's believed, but he's not believed about the Einiklach. But Lagabi Yerushi is believed Lagabi B'ni. So, but Masha'inkim, Mamed Var Mamun, if he has a son, so it comes out of Chidush. That when a person says about someone that's Becheskas B'nei, that he's not his son, again, when a person says about someone that's Becheskas B'nei, that he's not his son, so if this son doesn't have any other children, so the child has the din of a mamzer, and Mimele he's not considered B'nei, and Alderazah certainly he doesn't yarshin him. If that son has children, so he's not considered a mamzer, and the children of the son aren't considered mamzerim. But the Rambam is saying that legabe Yerusha, he's still not a Yerish. Now, and the Maggid Mishnah is adding that if the son is no longer alive, and Memele it's only relevant legabe the Einiklach, so then Taka he's not Neman. Then he's Taka not Neman, just like he's not Neman to say about Achi, that someone that's Becheskas Achiv, that is Eini Achiv, so someone that's Becheskas is Einikol, he's not believed to say he's not his Einikol, even though he's saying it by saying that this person's father wasn't his son, because since he's no longer alive, so he's not Neman. That's a Chidush. Now, Lefiza, it's going to come out, since there's a special Nemanis by a Ben, so it's going to come out in the first halacha that there's also a difference B'negeya the Nemanis legabi a Ben, legabi the Nemanis legabi other Yarshim. By other Yarshim, the Nemanis to say that Ze'achi comes from a Migui. So since it comes from a Migui, that he can transfer it, so the Migui only works for the Nechasim that he had while he said it. Mashenka for the Nechasim that's going to come later, for that there's no Nemanis. So when a person says Ze'achi, so all the Nechasim that he had from now, so that person is going to Yashin. Mashenka other Nechasim which he accumulated later, he doesn't yashin. So then Mele is taku. There's no yisod nemanis legabi that money because there was no migo in that money. That's been again when he says ze'achi. Mashenka when he says zebni. So since there's a special nemanis to say zebni legabi Yerusha, which has nothing to do with migo, so then the nemanis of zebni will work side the money that he already had and side the money that he will get later. Even though the Rambam says it together as one halacha, but lefiz that it's going to come out that there's going to be a difference. Halacha gimel ha'emer zebni. So once he says Zebni and he's Neman to say Zebni, so now he has no Nemanis to change that and say this is Avdi. However, Amar Avdi and then V'chazer V'amar B'ni is Afal Pi Shu Mishamshi Kevet. So L'chura, what he said before Ze'avdi, L'chura, there's a certain Nemanis. We say no. When he says now Zebni is Neman, Shezeh Shama Avdi Kalei Maharei Uli Kevet. So therefore, there's really no stira. When a person says Zebni, normally he's believed. The problem is only he said before Za'avdi. But now that we are able to tie choice that when he said Za'avdi, it's not really a steer to saying Zebni, because Avdi means that he's Ke'eved, Hareoli Ke'eved, so then, therefore we accept what he's saying, Zebni. So once he said Zebni, so he has no nemanis to say Za'avdi. Mashenkin, if he said Za'avdi, so now he has a nemanis to say Bni, and to say that when he said Avdi, he only meant Hareoli Ke'eved. That's only when he didn't really tie choice that he's an Eved Mamish. However, if he had a name of Eved Ben Me'ezuz, which such a name is an Emrei say B'yichud Elul Avodim, and that's how the father called him. That and the father also called him that way. Told Mariza Eved, that's no Eved of Ben Me'ezuz. So then is Arizah Nenaman. The Kitzur, when the father said first Arizah Avdi, so then Itaka has no Nemanis to say that Harizah B'ni. The only reason why he's believed to say Harizah B'ni, because when he said Harizah Avdi, he could tie choice that he didn't mean Eved Kipshutei. Mashenki now that you can't tie choice, so mainly he loses his Nemanis to say Harizah B'ni. Halacha Dalet. Hoya Ever al Beis HaMeches, V'amar B'ni Huzeh. At that point, now he said B'ni Huzeh, and then V'chozer Acharkach V'amar Avdi is Naman. So even though normally when a person first says B'ni and then he says Avdi is not Naman, but over here, since he was in the Beis HaMeches and he said B'ni, then he said Avdi is Naman. Shal Yomer B'ni el Avriach Min HaMeches. Because if he owns an Avdi, he would have to pay taxes for it. Fakert Amr Beis Hamechas Avdihu, and then V'chazer Amr B'nihu is Ein Naman, because if a person says Avdihu in a Beis Hamechas, so if he would take a B'ni, he wouldn't say Avdi, because L'Pel for Eved, you have to pay taxes. In Memela, so the fact that he said Avdi, there's already not excusable to say Arei Ulika Eved. The fact that he said Avdi must have meant that he's Aved Kipshute, and Memela, now that when he's saying B'ni, is not Naman. Halacha Hei, Ha'avodim V'ashvoches, Ein Keinu Lem Abba Pleini V'lei Ima Pleinis. Basically, it's just like we say Mr. someone, or so over here there was like a lashon of Abba Pleni. Abba Pleni meaning a certain lashon of covet before you mention his name. Why? Shali Yavim in Hadavar Takola v'nimtza ze Abba Nivgan. So you can have someone that's the son of the Odin, and he speaks to the Avid, and he calls him Abba Plenis. So then, when someone's going to hear the word Abba. So he's heard the word Abba, may not hear the word Plenis or Pleni, so then that person may think that this person is his child. So this child of the Odin, which is really a regular kosher child, people think that he's an Eved because he's a ben of that Eved, because he called him Abba. Lefichach, so since that's the concern, the only reason why you don't call an Eved Abba Pleni or a Shivcha Ima Pleni, because of this concern that the child of the Odin may call this person with the name Abba, and maybe people think that he's his father. So we're talking about choshev avodim shvachos, and everyone knows who they are and who the children of the Odin is. Kein eved anosi. So then arei mutar and likris ham abba v'ima. So in such a situation when you have a beis hanosi, so there's no problem of calling the eved Abba Pleni or the shivcha Ima Plenis, because there's no concern that the son of the Nasi will be mistaken to be a son of this Evet. Masha'inkin, in a regular household where it's not so famous who the Odin is and who the children of the Odin is and who the Avodim are, so then B'chiyah Gavna, there could be a concern that if someone hears this child of the Odin calling the Evet Abba, he may think that it's Taka his father. Halacha Vov. Mi sohoisol shivcha. Now, a person is a Baal HaShivcha, so this child has a din of an Evet Knaini, even though it's his child, the child of the Odin. But since he was a Baal HaShivcha, the child has a din of Evet Knaini. If the Shivcha was Nishtachara, so obviously, so then the child is his child. So the Shivcha Nishtachara has a din of a Gieris, and Memela is his child. Misha Hoysuli Shivcha, V'hoylid Mimena Ben from the Shivcha, and V'hoya Noyig Bei Minig Bonim. The Odin of this Shivcha was acting with his child like he act with a child. Eisha he clearly said, B'nihu, u'mishuchreres hi imei. He clearly said, this is really my child, and the mother was mishuchreres, so he's takalp, he did my child. Is I say, im Talmud Chachamim hu, if he's a Talmud Chacham, a Odin kosher shehuvzik b'dekduke mitzvahs, is harei ze Yerushalayim. Why? There's Maisa Zeh. She has a cheska Shivcha. We don't really know that she was Nishtachra. She was Becheska Shivcha. But on the other hand, he has a Chazaka that he wouldn't be Baal Shivcha. He wouldn't be Baal Shivcha. So it's really a Chazaka against a Chazaka. It's a Chazaka against a Chazaka. Now he also has a Migui. He could have been Shachra. And now when he's saying Legabi Yerusha, Lamashal Legabi Yerusha, he also has a Migui. He could be Maknat to the person. He could be Maknat. So when he's saying that this is my son, so therefore on one hand there's a chazaka that the chazaka is saying that it's his son because he wouldn't have been Baal Shivcha, and there's a chazaka fakir saying that she was a Shivcha, and on the other end he has a migui that he could have been maknis nechasim to this child. Says Azay Nachamo. Misha Hoysuli Shivcha v'helid men ben v'hineg ba minig bon. Eshamer b'nihu u'mishuchreres hi'imei. Is in Talmud Chacham hu eyod kosher. So the din is Harei Ze Yerushalayim. So Legabi Yerusha we say that since it's a chazaka against a chazaka, and Legabi Yerusha he has a migui, so therefore he's nam. But V'afal Pikein, even though he has a migui, Legabi Yerusha, this child is now to be a Nesa Bas Yisrael, Ad Sheyavi Raish and Shtachri V'achar Kach Yolda. Sharei Hu Ze Kashivcha B'Fanenu. So in other words, there's an emonis Legabi Yerusha, just like when a person says Hareza Achi, so he is in a monas because he has a migui, and if there's no chazaka against it, so over here also there's no chazaka against this migui because there's one chazaka against the chazaka. There's the chazaka that she was a shivcha, But on the other end, he has a chazaka that he wouldn't be bala shivcha. So maybe it's a chazaka against a chazaka plus a migoy legabi Yerusha. So therefore, harezi Yerusha. That's talking about when we're dealing with a person that's a Talmud Chacham. So again, so when there's a Talmud Chacham that was Baal Shivchosei, and he tainas that she's Meshuchreres, so we say that the child has a din, is a Yerush. However, the child still is not allowed to go ahead and marry a Bas Yisrael, because Lepel Shis, she was Becheska Shivcha, so even though he has a Chazaka that he wouldn't be Baal Shivcha, it's a Chazaka against a Chazaka, and therefore there's no Nemonis, you have to prove that she was Taka Meshuchreres. However, if he mishtared Yetis, so he wasn't a Talmud Chacham, mishtared Yetis, he was a person that was mufker for living with a shivcha. So then, so then this child has a din of a cheskas eved, because the mother was a shivcha, the echav me'aviv mechanesi, and his brothers, which are the children of this father, could sell him, because he has a din of an eved. V'me'ein la'avid ben chutz mimenu, and if this is the only child that the father has, so then Eishes of Misyabemis. The din is if the father has a child, so it's Isser Yibum. The Yibum is Eishes actually Mokah Mitzvah. So we're saying, no, the father doesn't have a child. I has this child is not his child. In other words, it's a cheskas that this child is not his child, because since the woman is a shivcha, and there's no yisod that she was ever in the shtachra, and he's a person that's a hedyet, or he's a person that's mufker, so memela, so there's no yisod that she was the shtachra, we assume that this child is definitely a ben shivcha, and therefore this father died without children, and therefore his wife could go ahead and have yibum. V'zeu adin she'iroli shuhei lechalikra kabol is again, if he was a Talmud Chacham, so then it's a chazaka that he wouldn't live with a shivcha. On the other hand, she has a cheskas that she was a shivcha. So legabi Yerusha, where there's a migo, he's believed, and legabi going ahead and living with a Bas Yisrael, he's not believed, and therefore you have to prove that she was nishtachera. If he wasn't a Talmud Chacham, he was a hedyet, or he's a mufker, so then there's no chazaka on his part. On the other hand, there's the chazaka that she's a shivcha, so therefore he has absolutely a din of an eved. He has a din of an eved, legabi al and yonim, legabi Yerusha, legabi der echov mi'aviv meirchinei, and also legabi that even the wife of the Odin, the Baal of the shivcha, the person that lived with this shivcha, could, if his wife, if this person didn't have any other children other than this ben hashivcha, so that woman could go ahead and kabel yibum, because we know on bepshitos that he is not his child, and therefore he died without children. That's zeu adin sheiroli shuhei lechalikra kabel. V'yesh mi shleichili ben ksherim l'shar ha'am ela le'inyan sheliyimkroi eisecha bilvad. So in other words, the Rambam holds that lepel by ksherim there's a chazaka that he wouldn't have lived with a shivcha. Since there's a chazaka that he wouldn't have lived with a shivcha, that chazaka goes against this chazaka that she was a shivcha. So memela, this child becomes a suffix whether he's a ben a shivcha or he's taka b'nei. And now that he's timing that he's b'nei, so memela he has a migui, and he has a migui, so therefore he's naman legabi Yerusha. So legabi Isser he's taka not naman. Therefore this child is not allowed to marry a Bas Yisrael unless we verify that she was a shtachera. But legabi Yerusha, since he has a migui, he's believed. That's b'medvar mamurim when we're talking about there's a chazaka against a chazaka. Masha'enkin by a shivcha, since there's no chazaka that he wouldn't have lived with a shivcha, so therefore there's a chazaka that she is a shivcha, so therefore he's not believed to say that she was meshucher, even with the migo. The migo doesn't help, and therefore he doesn't yarshin. That's what we learn in the Rambam. And the v'yeshmi l'chili ben ksherim l'sharam, and they hold that even by ksherim he's not naman to say that he was meshacher her. And the reason for it is because Lepel, since Lepel she was a shivcha, and his chazaka that he wouldn't live with a Bas Yisrael is not so strong as the strength she was a shivcha. You're saying he wouldn't have lived with a shivcha, rather is not such a strong migui, and therefore it's considered as not such a strong chazaka. I'm sorry. So therefore, even though he has a migui, when he tainas that zebni, so that migo is not believed, and therefore he's not believed legabi Yerusha. So he doesn't yarshin. So again, according to the first day, if he's a Talmud Chacham, he does yarshin. If he says it's b'ni, because it's a chazaka against a chazaka, and he has a migo. According to the second day is even if he's a Talmud Chacham, he's not believed to say it's b'ni legabi Yerusha, because lepeil since there's a strong chazaka that she was a shivcha, that chazaka that he wouldn't have lived with a shivcha is not as strong as the chazaka that she was a shivcha, and therefore you're not believed with a migo against the chazaka. That's this din. However, the fact that he's a Talmud Chacham helps Epis. What does it help? It helps that the other brothers can't go and sell him. As we said before, that Benegei Hedyet, the other brothers could go and sell him because he's Zichar and Evet. He's Zichar and Evet. Mashenkin over here, even though he's not enough of a not an Evet in order to be able to be believed to say that he's Zebni, but on the other hand, since he's Becheskas Atzmi, and this fart, the Talmud Chacham, that's Steining, that Zebni, that is his son, so therefore it helps that the other brothers shouldn't be able to sell it, because he's a Mughzik Ba'atzmei, and there's also a siyua. It's a siyua from the father that's saying that it's B'ni, that he was Meshachar the Shivcha. So therefore that's enough for that. It's not enough for the Yerusha, it's enough for that. That's the second shita. And V'yesh Mishaheda, which is a third shita, Shafilu Liyer Sheli Nachal B'Yisrael, Pum Fakert. In other words, the third shita holds that an Hedyet is even believed, L'gabi Yerusha. So it comes out there's three shitas. The first shita of the Rambam himself holds that by a Talmud Chacham he's Naaman. He's Naaman about Yerusha Uramigui, because it's a Chazaka against a Chazaka, and therefore he's Naaman with a Migui to say L'gabi Yerusha. He's not Naaman L'gabi Yisr because there's no Migui, but L'gabi Yerusha he's Naaman. The second shita holds that he's not Naaman with a Migui, because Lepel, since she's a Shivcha, and that Chazaka that he wouldn't marry a Shivcha is not so strong enough Chazaka, so therefore this Migui would be going against the Chazaka that she's a Shivcha. The only thing that the Talmud Chacham helps is that it causes that when he says that he was Meshacharer, at least it helps that the other brothers can't go and sell him, because Lepel is a Mughzik Beini Atzmi. That's the second shita. And the third shita holds Punkt Fakert. He holds that even by a Shivcha, Lepel, the Shivcha wouldn't have, even by a Hedyet, we could assume that he wouldn't have lived with her if she was still a Shivcha, and therefore that Chazaka is against the Chazaka that she was a Shivcha, and therefore they believe to say that Afilu Liyer Sheli Nechalik B'Yisrael, and even by a Hedyet, they're believed to say that the Shivcha is Meshuchreres, and therefore he's believed to say that Zebni Legabi Liyer Sheli. And Vein Lismach Roy Lismach Al Davar Zed, the Ram holds that you should be Seimach on that, but rather by a Hedyet he's considered 100% an Evet, Ad Kedei Kach, that the wife of this father could go ahead and have Yibum, even though a Yibum Shalei B'Makam Mitzvah would be Aser, the Iser Kares. But nevertheless, we know that he doesn't have any children. This child is not considered his child because it's a ben Hashivcha Ad Kedei Kach, that we know on that. That's what the Rambam holds. Masha'inkin B'Negev, he's a Talmud Chacham, so that Chazaka that he wouldn't have lived with a Shivcha is enough to give him Nemonis when he says with a Migoy to say Zebni. But on the other end, there's no Nemonis L'gabi Sh'arisur. That's the Klolos Adin. Three shitas. Halacha Zayin. Kol hayorshim, yorshim b'chazaka. When a person is a yorish, we want to say he's a korev. How do we know he's a korev? Based on chazaka. Ketzad. Eidim shu idu shizem mugzik lanu shu b'nei shel pleni. In other words, we don't know for a fact we weren't there by the Leda. We know that he acts over there. He comes to Shtein. We see that he fears it with him as a father and a son. A yachav, or they fears it like brothers, or they're mugzik that they're brothers. Everyone knows that they're brothers. Is aval pi she'enon edi yichus. They're not mamish edi yichus. V'leyadu amitas yichusim. But nevertheless, legabi Yerusha harelu yershim edus. This is enough edus to establish that he should be a yerish. Halacha ches. Yankiv shemes v'hiniach Reuven v'Shimon, and he left two children, which Reuven v'Shimon, which we knew with his children, was hulzik that there was a Reuven v'Shimon. As far as we knew, the Pashtus Advarim, he had two sons, Reuven and Shimon. Now then, Tafas Reuven Levi min Ashuk. Reuven comes with Levi min Ashuk. V'amar gam ze'achinu. So Reuven says that I know for a fact that Levi is also our brother. He wasn't muzik to be a brother, but Reuven, which is one of the sons, is steining that he knows for a fact that Levi is also one of the brothers. Now V'Shimon, the other brother, Eimer Eini Yideh, I don't know. I don't know that he's not a brother, but I don't know he is a brother. So what's the din? So din is Azeh. So Lepel, there's a Yerusha. The pastures of the Yerusha, Reuven takes a half and Shimon takes a half. Now Reuven is coming along and saying, no, that we're not entitled to half, we're entitled to a third, because there's a third brother. So since Shimon is Eini Yedeh, and it's not Muzik, so Shimon takes half of the moment, as if Reuven wouldn't have said anything, because that would have been the pashtus. That Reuven and Shimon are the only sons, and therefore Shimon is entitled to half of the money. Now Reuven, even according to his taina, that there's 3 sons, he's entitled to shlish. Reuven is shlish. He takes a third. Shari hey the shem shlish achim, because he's taining that there's 3 brothers. And the Levi netel shtus, and Levi takes a sixth of the Yerusha. In other words, the sixth, in other words, a 6 plus a third is a half. So Memele, he takes a sixth. In other words, because Reuven is taining that really Levi is entitled to a third. But Shimon didn't accept that. He said, "Any idea." So Memele, the third, the sixth, which is of Levi's, of what Reuven would have had half. So that goes to Levi, and the other 6 doesn't go because Shimon keeps it. Now Mes Levi, now Levi dies. So Levi received a sixth of the Yerusha based on Reuven's testimony. Mes Levi, so now Yahazer Ashtus Levi, Reuven. So now that Shtus goes back to Reuven. That goes back to Reuven. Now that's Bamed Dvarim Amurim, the Shtus that he took from Reuven in the Yerusha of Reuven's father, which Reuven said was Levi's father as well. So that goes back to Reuven. However, Naflu Levi Nechasim Acher, Lepel Levi had also other Nechasim. So then the din is Yachlu Kues and Reuven v'Shimon. So Reuven and Shimon divide that equally. Shari Reuven made the Shimon Shalevi Zachir. So even though Shimon said it's I don't know, and therefore he didn't have to give any chelik of his Yerusha to Levi, because he claims he's not saying I know for a fact that not, but I don't know that yeah. And Memele, the fact that Reuven is saying yeah is not enough to be able to take away the Yerusha from me. But on the other end, now that Levi dies, and Levi now has a Yerusha, and Reuven himself said that this Yerusha is his and his, that is, we're the 2 brothers, so Memele, so Shimon is also a brother. Now Hishbiach Hashtus Me'elav, V'acharkach Mes Levi. So now we have over here, Levi got a shtus from Reuven, because Reuven would have gotten a half, but since Reuven said that Levi is the brother, so therefore Levi got a shtus. Now when Levi dies, he gets the shtus back. However, this shtus now has a shvach, is azeh. So the question is, do we look at this shvach as being part of the shtus, and therefore just like the shtus goes back to Reuven, because he got it from Reuven, so al derech, and it doesn't go to Shimon at all, because he took it from Reuven's chelik. Because the whole idea was that he took it from Reuven's chelik. Shimon didn't give any chelik to Levi. So Memele, the shtus goes back to Reuven, and if the shvach on the shtus, if we consider it part of the shtus, so it goes back also to Reuven. Or no, or we look at the shvach separate. So it depends what kind of shvach it is. Im shvach ha-magzir l'ksofim hu, no, this shvach ha-magzir l'ksofim, which means that it's a shvach which already became its own entity. That's pshat magir l'ksofim kigein. Anov m'shigiu li botzer, we have already grapes which are ready to be cut, so they're ready to be separated from the original Yerusha. Is already a shvach hazek in the chasim shenaflu me'acher. This shvach is considered like separate nechasim, new nechasim, and therefore the yichalkabem. Just like we said before, that if Levi had other nechasim, and now Levi dies, so since Reuven is saying that the Levi is our brother, so therefore Shimon and Reuven both Yash and Levi. So Alder is over here, the shvach hamagzir l'ksofim, which is considered separate from the original part that Levi got, so they're also yechalke b'nei. However, we're not talking about grapes that are yigil libotzer. They're still part, they still need to be nurtured from the ground. So then it's Arein Reuven Levadi, that's considered Reuven. So Bekitzer, Reuven gave part of what was entitled to his Yerusha without saying anything, he gave it to Levi. Now Levi dies, so he takes it back from Levi. Now if this thing that he is taking back from Levi had a shvach, so it depends. If that shvach was a shvach of Agzir L'Ksofim, which means it's already a novim, Hegili Botzer, so therefore they're considered separate. So it's like Al has a din of Nechasim Shenoflu to Levi, and then Reuven and Shimon divided equally. Masha'inkein, if it's not a shvach Magir L'Ksofim, it's a novim, but it's not a Gili Botzer, so then Reuven takes back the shtus that he gave Levi, and he also takes back the shvach which is on that shtus. That's all talking about when Shimon originally said, I don't know. Whereas Reuven said, Levi is our brother, and Shimon said, I don't know. So Memela, so Shimon is not mechuyev to give anything to Levi because he never admitted that Levi is a brother. But on the other hand, he never denied that Levi is a brother. So therefore, when Levi dies, and Reuven is taking Levi's chosim as being a brother, so Shimon is also entitled because Reuven himself said that Shimon is also a brother. However, Amar Shimon ain't Levi Ze'achi. Shimon originally didn't just say, I don't know. He said, ain't Levi Ze'achi, he's not our brother. And lepel v'not Levi b'chelik Reuven k'misha b'yarnu. And b'achar kach mes Levi. So then Lei yiresh mena Shimon klum. Then Shimon doesn't yashin anything. El Reuven levade Yirish Ashtus. Reuven Yarshins the Shtus. Mshara Nechasim Acherim Sheniach Levi. With the other Nechasim, because Shimon clearly said that Levi is not a brother. If one of them agree that this other person is a Yerish and the other one doesn't agree, so it depends. If he doesn't agree in the sense that he says, I don't know, so then there's the din like we said over here before. He doesn't know, so therefore that person only gets from the other person's Yerusha. But later on, if that person dies, they both yashin them together. Masha'inkin, if he says, I know they're not, so then he, so to speak, he's admitting that he's not a Yerish, and therefore he's not entitled to any Yerusha, even if that person dies and he has other Nechasim, so he's not entitled to anything of that Yerusha.